You are Locked On Warriors POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports San Francisco on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yo, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Locked On Warriors POSTCAST. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. You may know me as the former producer from the Murph and Mac Morning Show on KMBR, or maybe from this program itself. We've been doing this for quite a while at this point, and tonight, the Golden State Warriors continued rolling. They're red hot since the Jimmy Butler acquisition, and tonight they squashed the Charlotte Hornets 128-92 at Chase Center, and it was a total team win as every single player on the Warriors finished with a positive plus minus, except for the very, very bottom. Yuri Collins and Pat Spencer, only two. They finished with a -1. We'll give it to them, though. But Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry only combined for 21 points, did not need to carry the scoring load as 7 different dubs ended up in double figures. And the Warriors continued their steady climb up the ladder in the Western Conference, past the Mavericks tonight in the standings if that score in LA holds over the Mavericks. And they're looking right at the 6th seed, man. Could be there by the end of this looming road trip. So much to break down from this awesome win tonight. We'll break it all down, but first I want to thank all of you for watching us on the Locked On Sports San Francisco YouTube channel. Please, if you aren't subscribed already, hit that button right now. Turn those notifications on. Thanks also for listening on the Locked On Warriors podcast feed and making us your first listen following these Dubs games. And make sure to check out the Locked On Warriors Daily Show for more in-depth coverage. Charlie Walter does a great job. Early on, again, another game where the Warriors put this one to bed basically in the first half. I mean, by the third quarter, this one was all wrapped up with a nice bow on it. Closed the first quarter with a 19-4 run after they kind of let Charlotte hang around for the early minutes in this one. The Warriors, for whatever reason, they're like 4 of their first 5 shots in this one were from three-point land, and then they figured out, oh, hey, we just got to get inside on this team. I guess they were maybe intimidated by the Hornets inside a little bit. Like the one guy on this team who could hurt you at all was Mark Williams. They kind of bottled him up pretty effectively tonight, but dude's a stalwart defender on the interior, and the Warriors didn't really care. Kept getting inside all night long, and they really took it to the Hornets. The Hornets, it's the Hornets. They're down bad. They got no LaMelo Ball, but you still got to win the game, and you still got a 5-game road trip looming. And you had the celebration of the 2015 championship team tonight, the Andre Iguodala jersey retirement ceremony over the weekend. This had some makings of a trap game, but with Jimmy Butler, with Draymond Green, with Steph Curry at the helm of this team, I just absolutely do not think that this team is going to get distracted in any possible way. The Warriors, by the way, dominate the points in the paint tonight, 62-38, and they basically blew up Charlotte in every measurable statistic. Fast break points, they outscored them. Points off turnovers, they scored, or they beat them. The total number of turnovers, Charlotte had 24, the Warriors only 11. So the Dubs really dominating every single aspect of this game. Jimmy Butler has done so much for this team, and just the way that they think and operate. And he only had 6 points tonight, but he impacted the game in tons of other ways. Just the pace, the flow, and the confidence that he instills in everybody else around them. But as I said, it wasn't all on Steph or Jimmy tonight, so we're going to spend a lot of time tonight talking about the other guys. The first guy I want to talk about is GP2, because in that first half, man, he led the Warriors in scoring going into the break. And he had such just an all-around great game tonight. I mean, Gary Payton, Mr. Do-It-All for the Warriors, the little big man. He had four assists. He had a couple boards. As I said, he had 14 points leading the Warriors at the break. One of the 7 Warriors in double figures tonight. And he had a very, very nice play closing out that first half. He had a nice spinning assist in the lane after he got the pass when he was cutting to the basket. And he drew so much attention as the cutter. And obviously, Steph, with the gravity that he has, kept the defense home. Defense is slow to rotate to the corner, where GP2 finds an open Buddy Hield, who cashes the 3-point. But he's like mid-spin when he does this. I don't even know how he saw Buddy Hield without just the world spinning by him while he was moving that fast. It was just crazy sensory ability by GP2. He scored or assisted on 4 of the Warriors' final 6 buckets before the halftime break. And he was such a fun interview at halftime, man. Bob asked him if he's ever unhappy, and GP2 just looked back into the camera and smiled and said, not really. And how can anybody be unhappy with this Warriors team right now? You can check the receipts. I've gone back and said that Jimmy Butler was the best addition the Warriors could make this season, and I was stoked about them adding him at the time. This isn't like some Monday morning quarterbacking. I have said this the entire time. And it's hilarious to watch the rest of the nation who isn't locked in on the Warriors come around on this and say, oh, maybe I was wrong. Maybe Jimmy is going to fit. I don't know why anybody ever questioned the fit of Jimmy Butler into this team. And the number one reason that I wanted that he affects this team in such a positive way, and we talked about this forever since it was even a prospect, is his IQ on the defensive end of the floor. And you see it again. The Warriors hold another opponent to below 100 points. Since Jimmy Butler has been in the starting rotation with the Warriors since that Bulls game, the most points they've given up to a team is 111. And by the way, that was against the Bulls when they were still trying to figure some things out. Gave up to 111 to Milwaukee the next game. And since then, it's been slowly dropping. The points that the Warriors are giving up, they're right around 100 per game. Since the Jimmy Butler acquisition, it looks impressive, man. And Draymond's talked about this extensively on his podcast, where he's basically said he is still actively, to this day, learning things from Jimmy Butler out there on the court. How is Draymond Green learning things on the defensive end of the court in like the twilight of his career? That's absolutely crazy to me that Jimmy Butler has such a high IQ. He's teaching Draymond Green things on the defensive end of the floor. That's absolutely bonkers. And Draymond Green said he is, quote, a pleasure to learn from, a pleasure to play alongside. And when you have a guy like Draymond Green backing your IQ, oh man, you are elite level basketball player with your brain. And Jimmy Butler gives the Warriors so much on the defensive end. And that was so evident tonight in the third quarter. When the Warriors came out of that third quarter, they had an early Steph Curry three, but then back-to-back possessions where they give up buckets close to the rim. Warriors call a timeout, and the lead had shrunk to 13, I think, around that time. And they come back out, absolutely lock in on the defensive end of the floor. They hold the Hornets without a field goal from the 10-minute mark to about 5:45 in that quarter. And they pushed the lead to a game-high 30-plus points. 39 points, I think, was the peak. They had 41 points in that quarter. They had 3 before the timeout. That is another huge thing about this team. Since Jimmy Butler has come over, the way that they respond out of these timeouts is so impressive. They had a 19-3 run after that timeout, and Draymond and Jimmy were huge parts of this. They were feeding each other on back-to-back interior buckets. Draymond had a really cool one-handed slam, and he just looked into the stands, kept looking at the same spot. I have a feeling he picked out a heckler tonight and was just kind of talking with him while he was out there. You saw him flexing and yelling into the stands at I'm assuming at that same heckler after that one-handed slam. You saw him pointing in that same direction in the crowd earlier in the game after he stopped a 2-on-1 fast break all by himself. And man, Draymond Green, by the way, had a very nice game of his own tonight. 50% shooting from the floor, hit both his free throws, 6 boards, 6 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks. I mean, 5 stocks is a lot, and 15 points for Draymond. This Warriors team is so unbelievably locked in right now. Draymond looks energized. Like, when is the last time that we saw Draymond throwing down this many dunks post halftime in a game? I mean, he's got them old knees. Oh, I got to keep it PG on the show, but he's got those old knees, man, where he's just wearing those massive ice packs all the time, just completely wrapped up. And for him to be able to come out there and give you that kind of effort, to give you that kind of juice, you know he's just running on adrenaline. And that's the Jimmy Butler effect, man. Like, this guy, his energy is tangible, it's palpable, it spreads, it's infectious. And you saw it even in the bench tonight. And when this game, the Warriors were up by 40, didn't need to play anybody in that fourth quarter. They pushed that lead to 41, by the way, in large part because of Buddy Blankenhield, who has been shooting really well since that 3-point contest where he finished in second place. And he also took a trip to the Bahamas over the break, took the braids out, man, and just let the hair flow. He just looks way more relaxed out there. Maybe the braids were just too tight. Maybe Buddy was just a little too stressed out, high strung. And now I gotta credit one of my friends. My friend Jordan texted me and said, it looks like Frederick Douglass with the hair. And I can't get it out of my head now. It looks like we got Frederick Douglass running around out there chucking it up from 3. And I love it, man. And to close out that third quarter, Kevin Knox hits a buzzer beater off an offensive board, puts the lead at 32. 41-point third quarter, puts the nail in the coffin. And this was now back-to-back games where Steph did not need to enter the game in the fourth quarter. And that's a huge plus for this team. If you can go into the playoffs with a rested Stephen Curry, especially given the way that he was being used earlier this year, his usage rate was just so high early in the year with how many shots he had to take. He was turning into a volume scorer, which we've never seen from Steph. Like, a lot of his slash lines looked like 24 points on like 23 shots, and that's not Steph's game. Steph's game is hitting threes, making all his free throws. Like, he's usually, you want to see about, somewhere between 1.5 and 2 points per shot if you're talking elite level player. And that's exactly where Steph has kind of lived at since the Jimmy Butler trade. I mean, tonight he was again a volume scorer, 14 shots, 15 points. So that's not really what you want to see from the percentages, but still, 2 of 9 from three. The Warriors were not shooting the ball well from three-point land early in this one, and it didn't matter because everybody got into it on the interior. Everyone was getting points in the paint. And while the Warriors did, smoke some layups as they have all season long at the rim, they made enough of them, got enough opportunities, and didn't get down on themselves. I mean, the way this team plays, it is so hard. Intensity through the roof all the time. Since the Jimmy Butler trade, it is tangible, the effect that this guy has had on the team with not just his play on the court, but his presence in the locker room, the way that he coaches up everybody around him. I mean, he's even coaching up Draymond Green, as we just talked about, which is absolutely incredible to me at this point in his career that Draymond is still willing to learn from other players. And everyone questioned the fit between Draymond and Jimmy. I don't know how you could have ever questioned that, man. These are two of the highest IQ players in the league who play such good hustle defense. Of course, they're going to feed off of each other. Of course, they're going to get nasty with the other team. And you just hope that it doesn't turn internally if Jimmy ever gets disgruntled. But hey, the reason Jimmy gets disgruntled is because he wants some money. The Warriors just gave him a bunch of money. He's a happy Jimmy Butler. When he's happy Jimmy Butler, we're all happy Dubs fans, man. And this game was so fun. Just to wrap it up, going through this game in the fourth quarter, it turned into the Kevin Knox show a little bit, man. This guy, honestly, he might be a dude. And I'm not saying he's going to be a starter or get 20 minutes off the bench or anything like that a game, but he's the guy who could give you some valuable minutes come playoff time if he continues to play how he's been playing. Maybe a valuable 10-ish minutes off the bench in a pinch when you need a big physical guy who can get out there, because the athleticism with this man is through the roof. I mean, there's no questioning this guy's athleticism. You don't become a top 10 pick in the NBA draft by accident, by not having some serious skills in the bag. And Kevin Knox does. I mean, you saw the monster right-handed spike off the alley-oop from Keith Santos, man. He almost hit his head on that backboard. By the time he caught the ball, his whole body was like almost behind the backboard. He caught it kind of late and just reached back in over the bucket and just threw it in. It was an amazing play by Kevin Knox. And the athleticism is very prevalent. Hit a three also in this one. And man, just seeing the way that the Warriors, like down the bench, are locked in despite having a 40-point lead, it was so fun to watch. And by the way, just to wrap up, going through what just the doings of this game, Quentin Post. I love this guy, man. Dude gets kicked out of the game with like 20 seconds left because he's getting physical with the Hornets big men. He was mixing it up with multiple guys down there in that fourth quarter. Despite the way that this game went for the Warriors, he did not care. He did not give an S, and he was pushing dudes around there. He was saying, "Get the blank off of me," and trying to throw it down inside on dudes' heads. Hit a three in this one. Goes back to the bench, and instead of giving everyone high fives, gives them high threes. And what a vibe, man. The Warriors particles out the wazoo right now. Post after he got the technical, was kicked out of the game, and Draymond loved it. He gave him not one but two high fives, and Draymond's dancing on the court afterwards. And Quentin Post didn't want to go to the locker room. He wanted to watch those last 20 seconds of this Warriors win, tried to hang out in the tunnel and look on, but the security came and told him, "Hey buddy, you gotta get back there." So Quentin Post doesn't get to watch the end of this game, which is about the only bad thing that happened for the Warriors. And it was still kind of a funny moment because you're not really worrying about Quentin Post reaching the too many technical marks in a season. And I kind of like the nastiness, to be honest. Like, I like seeing the guy who, every time you see a big man who's a three-point shooter, you instantly assume that they're soft inside. And especially if they have that European tag, that's just kind of, unfortunately, something that follows those players from those backgrounds. But there is nothing soft about this Quentin Post guy. Do not get mistaken. Do not get it twisted. The Dutch master, he'll punish you on the interior, man. He is a nasty dude. And I love the fact that he's on the Warriors. He almost got to that double-digit mark. I thought he was going to be the 8th Warrior in double figures tonight, but couldn't get it. He had 8 points in his 18 minutes. Very solid game all the way around from top to bottom on this roster. By the way, your leading scorer tonight, Buddy Hield with 16 points. 16 points. That's how much of a team win this was. Every single player on this Warriors team contributed to this win. Only two guys who didn't score, Yuri Collins and Pat Spencer, or Pat Spencer did score, excuse me. Only guy who didn't score was Yuri Collins. That 6 looked like a 0 on that box score, but in my brain, I was like, Pat Spencer made a couple of those shots there at the end. So anyways, Warriors, total domination for the Hornets, and man, they are rolling right now. We got a lot more to get into on this game. Coming up next, I'm going to explain to you guys why we all got to also be Lakers fans for the next week. Man, I hate those words even coming out of my mouth, but we got to be. We'll get into it next on the Locked On Warriors postcast. Today's episode is brought to you by DoorDash. NBA fans, get ready. They swoosh, you save. Thanks to Dash Pass, every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal on the next day. It's simple. When any player scores 50 or more in a game during the 2024-2025 NBA regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order, up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. And there are tons of different ways that you can save. Maybe you want a game day feast, man, with the Warriors playing how they are. You're obviously going to be inviting the friends over to watch this game. Maybe Warriors Magic, it could be a fun one. The Magic just got blown out tonight, so they're going to be motivated. So when the Warriors play the Magic, maybe you want to celebrate by ordering some wings, pizza, or burgers from your favorite spot delivered straight to your door. You can also order some late night cravings, lunch on the go, whatever fits your schedule. That's what you need to do with Dash Pass. And signing up for Dash Pass and be ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. Welcome back to the Locked On Warriors postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, and tonight the Warriors picked up their 3,000th win as a franchise, 5th NBA franchise to do so. Had to do it tonight as they honored the 2015 championship team in the building. You had Mo Spates and Festus, Fezzi Fell, Brandon Rush all sitting courtside with big boss Joe Lacob. Like, you had to win the game with all the luminaries in the building, and they did. As I said, the 5th NBA franchise to do so in NBA history. And one of the other teams in that category is the Los Angeles Lakers. And I know that we all hate talking about the damn Lakers, but tonight we got to a little bit because the Lakers did their job. They helped out the Warriors tonight by beating the Mavericks. The Warriors have now overtaken the Mavericks in the Western Conference. They're now sitting at the 8th seed, a half game ahead of the Dallas Mavericks with the win tonight. So that's a big, big, big change in Warrior land right now. And going forward, the Lakers, they got some Warriors opponents coming up. They got the Wolves and they got the Clippers in back-to-back games. That's what the Lakers' next 3 are looking like. If they win those 3 games and the Warriors keep winning, we're looking at the 6th seed by the time they get back from this next road trip, man. And this is a big deal because if the Warriors already can jump into that 6th spot going forward, I mean, you're just hoping other teams slip up because the way the Warriors are playing, every day, I believe more and more about what Draymond Green said over the break, over the All-Star break, where he planted the flag and said, Warriors are going to win the championship. And everybody on the Dubs backed him up with it. Steph, Steve Kerr, everybody said, I believe too. And Draymond went on his podcast and doubled down on it. He said, I've seen this before again and again and again and again. 4 times he has seen this. I trust him. I trust the dude's eyes. I trust the dude's IQ. Don't trust him to maintain his temper sometimes, but I do 100% trust Draymond Green's opinion when he's talking about if this team is a championship level team. They look like it out there. I know it's the Hornets, but this is what championship teams do to teams that are down and out. It was the way they beat the Hornets. They did not let them have any hope of life in this game. They got them down big in the first quarter and they didn't play with their food. They stepped on the neck and choked them out early in this game again. Another game where Steph and all of your starters got to rest the entire 4th quarter. This is a very, very, very solid thing for the Warriors. We already talked about that a little bit, but the more and more that this goes on, the more and more I believe. Also of note, Jonathan Kuminga still isn't on this team right now. He's still working his way back from injury. He is scrimmaging right now and could be back by the end of the road trip. And for, I'm a millennial, obviously, look at me, but all my other millennials out there, I mean, we all were, for the most part, enthralled by by the phenomenon that was Dragon Ball Z when we were younger. At least I for sure was. So were all of my friends. And all I can think about is the Warriors are basically Frieza from Dragon Ball Z saying, this isn't even my final form yet. And I mean, that's crazy to think about. This team could get even better, could level up again with the addition of Jonathan Kuminga once he comes back. And I am very curious. I'm curious to see what you guys think. Is Kuminga going to return and be a starter alongside Jimmy and Steph and Draymond? And who else stays in the lineup? Does Moses Moody go to the bench? Does Brandon Podziemski go to the bench? This five looks really in sync right now. Do you want to break that up? Personally, if you're asking me, I think Kuminga has to go to the bench, and that can create a little bit of a problem because we all know how Kuminga has felt about coming off the bench in these recent years. About halfway through last season, he was extremely disgruntled, let it be known that he was unhappy with his role, wanted more playing time. And maybe he's changed his opinion. Maybe with Jimmy Butler on the team, he can buy in a little bit more to coming off the bench, but who knows what's going to happen when he comes back. I do, however, if you're asking me, I think that Kuminga is best suited coming off the bench and being that jet. I mean, who on anybody else's bench in the entire NBA is going to go toe-to-toe with Jonathan Kuminga? I'm telling you right now, it's nobody. That's going to be the most athletic guy coming off the bench of any single NBA team. And that would put the Warriors in such a luxurious position of being able to have so many different options. And plus, when you do inevitably get him on the court with the other, Steph, Draymond, Jimmy, who do you guard? Who do you leave open? If you're going to double team, who you leaving open, man? I mean, it's pick your poison right there. And the Warriors are going to be the beneficiaries of this. Man, oh man, is this such a fun stretch of basketball for the Warriors. I am all in on this team at this point, ever since the Jimmy Butler trade, man. We got more to break down from this one. I want to talk, as I said, we're going to talk a lot about the other guys tonight. Let's just talk more about the bench tonight and all the role players. We got to give some love to Moses Moody tonight. He had a really efficient game. And again, we already talked about Kevin Knox, Quentin Post, and Gary Payton. Talked a little bit about Buddy Hield, but we got some more guys to give some love to on the other side of the Locked On Warriors postcast. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the Locked On Warriors postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. Tonight, the Warriors squashed the Hornets 128-92. Poor Hornets, only 5 wins away from Charlotte all season long, only 14 wins on the season. It is a bad year for the Hornets, and this is a lesser opponent to the Warriors. Let's just call it what it is. They don't have their star player, LaMelo Ball, who, by the way, Warriors probably should have drafted back in the day, but that's a topic for another day, probably a topic for another show. But the Warriors had to beat this team. Could not overlook them, despite the fact that you have a big road trip coming up. But you know, all wins count the same. Doesn't matter who your opponent is. You just got to go play and win the game. It counts the same as beating the Lakers or OKC or anybody else in the league. So the Warriors do their job tonight. They don't overlook the Hornets. And now on deck, they go to Orlando for the start of a 5-game road trip. And they'll then go to Philadelphia, then play Charlotte again. They'll play the Knicks and the Brooklyn Nets before eventually returning back to Chase Center on Saturday, March 8th. So that's quite a little ways away for the Warriors. You got some time in that stretch. And as I already said, with the Lakers winning tonight over the Mavs, the Warriors have climbed into the 8th seed, and they have every opportunity to overtake that 6th seed if the Lakers can do their job. Lakers just need to go win some games. We all got to root for Luka and Braun, unfortunately, for the next 3 Laker games. Then we can go back to hoping that they lose the rest of the season. And man, I'm just looking at the chat, and I've seen this several times before. My girlfriend, unfortunately, is a big Laker fan, and she loves to chime in and just poke me and say, "Go Lakers" in the live chat. And I just wish she'd stop, man. But we're house divided right now. I mean, after the Luka trade, I woke up and immediately showed her the Sham Shrani attack or post, and I was beside myself. And she's over here celebrating. It's a tough time to be in the Triple E household right now, man. I'm telling you. But hey, the Warriors winning cures all of those feelings for me. It makes me feel a lot better when the Warriors win. And even if the Lakers won tonight, it's okay because it helped out the Warriors. And going forward, they need to continue to win. Both teams, for at least the next 3 games, need to continue to win. Warriors much longer than that. And they'll keep winning if they keep playing team basketball like this, man. Like every single player on this team did a great job tonight. And everything is better since Jimmy Butler. Like, it's the Jimmy Butler effect, the Himmy Butler effect in the Himmy Butler era. And I mean, look at the turnover numbers, way down, only 11 turnovers for the Warriors today. Nobody on the Warriors had more than 2 turnovers. Every single player on the Warriors kept the turnover margin down. And especially what I'm looking at is the starters. The starters only turned the ball over 4 times. And that's amazing, amazing work for a team that is just turnover happy. Like you saw Steph with the bad one-handed pass early on to Jimmy Butler when Jimmy had his defender completely sealed off down low and Steph just threw it out of bounds. Steph immediately started shaking his head, held up his hand, my bad. Didn't do another one-handed pass in the entire blanking game, and that's what I want to see. But as I said, we got to give some love to the other guys. Moses Moody, yet another great game from this man. 5 shots, 13 points, plus 25, plus minus, and only 1 turnover. This guy has been so good for the Warriors, playing that power forward position, man. And that is not what I expected from Moses Moody to eventually get his playing time. But this is such a versatile player that he can do basically anything out there that you ask of him. He is so strong. He might not be the tallest Warrior on the team, but he fits in very well with what they want to do with his IQ and with his he's built well. Like he's a wide body. He's got a lot of strength in the lower half and in the shoulders, and he's not afraid to mix it up with guys. He's got some nastiness to him. And Moses Moody, by the way, first shot he took tonight was a 3-pointer right before the half. And he caught the ball, and he saw the defender sprinting towards him, closing out. He was so cool, calm, and collected. Just caught the ball, looked down at his feet, took 1 step back so he could be behind the 3-point line, let it go, and cash money, baby. All 3 of his shots from 3 tonight, nothing but net, 4 of 5 from the field. And Moses Moody is giving you some great stuff on defense. He's playing positionless basketball. He can switch onto anybody, and that is the perfect mold for this team because that's what Draymond does. That's what Jimmy Butler does. That's what this whole team has been doing. It doesn't matter who's in front of you. I don't care. I'm going to guard your you know what. And I'm going to take that ball from you because the Warriors have been forcing a ton of turnovers. And the other thing they've been doing is scoring off those turnovers. And again, tonight they maximized the points off of turnovers. Again, 37 points off of those turnovers tonight for the Warriors. I'm pretty sure they lead the league in points off turnovers since the Jimmy Butler acquisition. So this is not a mistake. This is not like just a microcosm of success for the Warriors. This is real. This is the real deal. This defense is here to stay. We've said it before. Their identity, although they are scoring a ton of points, 41 points in a single quarter, this team can score. Their identity is a defensive team that's going to take the ball away from you, beat you up, and demoralize you. That is who this team is. And with a defense like this, you can beat any team in the NBA. You can go toe-to-toe with anybody. Yes, I even mean OKC. I even mean the Boston Celtics or the Cleveland Cavaliers should the Warriors get all the way to the NBA Finals. And maybe you think I'm crazy, but I'm fully on board with the Draymond Green hype train at this point. Like, Draymond's the conductor of the Warriors 2025 championship bus, and I'm on board, man. I'm on board. I'm ringing the bell for him. I mean, this is so fun to watch. I think everybody should be getting behind this Warriors team. I don't know how you don't believe if you're watching this game with any kind of like trained eyes at all. And I mean, I'm not the most trained, skilled eyes in the world. And even I can see that this team has a lot in the tank. I mean, this team could go a long, long, long way. Start thinking about teams that the Warriors have already beat. I mean, they beat up on the Grizzlies, like they beat up on the Wolves, like they beat OKC twice already. And now you add Jimmy to the equation. This team could do some real damage, man. This team could do some real damage. Tonight was such a fun win, 128-92, just highlight plays all over the place for the Warriors. And just good basketball, man. Just beautiful basketball out there. To quote my guy, Brian Murphy, just beautiful basketball. And by the way, I got to say, I tuned in. If you guys haven't watched the Polymac Particles, coming from the morning show, I love my guys, Murph and Mac. And Polymac started his own show with Creative Tony Ryan. They're doing the Polymac Particles. And I heard Murph on there saying Quentin Post was a big Ethan Hawke, and I just can't get it out of my brain now, man. But I saw the show on Monday where Murph came on with Pauly, and I had to reach out to my guys and try and get them both on the show. So we're going to have Pauly Mac on the show, I think after the Knicks game in March. So we'll get him on the show soon. Murph, he'll come on at a later day when the Giants start back up again. We'll get him on our Giants show. But I just had to shout out my guys, you know what I mean? And speaking in vain of the same polymac particles kind of vibe, everybody on the Warriors tonight, everybody on the Warriors just smiles all over the bench. And all I could do was think that, Paulie influenced me so much with the Grateful Dead. And all I could think of was the Dead quote. Nothing left to do but smile, 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 man. That's where we're at with the Warriors. And that's where we're at with this show. That's all the time we got for you guys today. Thanks so much for tuning in. The Warriors taking on the Orlando Magic next on Thursday, February 27th. Tip time, 4:00 p.m. Pacific time. A little early tip for you guys. So make sure that you tune into the show after that game. Until then, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Peace.